It's that time. Watch News Weekly. Got lots of interesting topics this week. Starting probably what I would say is the biggest piece of news that was out there, and that's WatchBox, Govberg, Hyde Park, Radcliffe, joining together, creating the 1916 company. Of course, the 1916 company refers to the fact that Govberg Jewelers has been around since 1916, 107 years old.
That's an achievement, 107 years.
That is, you know, it's funny, like, I was talking to people and they said, you know, what are some of the achievements you feel you've made in the company, right? And the answer was always, well, I created a team, I created a family, you know. It was, first and foremost for me, it's about not just myself, but it's also the people that are around me, the people that have been with me for so many years. But then there was this one marker that it's just like I always wanted to get to, that was that $100 million marker, right? To say I'm a $100 million company, right? When the minute we hit that 100 million a few years back, I was just like, that's a nice marker. I mean, call it whatever, right? But it was still like a nice feeling. But for a company to hit a 100 year in the business market, I think that blows that out of the water. But so basically everything stems from what? Everything stems from the fact that everybody wants to jump on a bandwagon of this Rolex CPO program, right? Started with Watches of Switzerland, moved on to Bucherer, right? And then Bucherer got bought over by Rolex, but we're not going to talk about that anymore. We spent enough time doing that. But everybody wants to sell Rolex CPO. Now, Govberg, Hyde Park, Radcliffe, all those guys, they're authorized Rolex dealers. In what world can you sell pre-owned Rolex online through the certified pre-owned program, much like Bucherer? Bucherer doesn't have a WatchBox. Bucherer doesn't have a Luxury Bazaar or a Bob's Watches, right? Bucherer is Bucherer. So that's why they were able to put those watches online. With Watches of Switzerland, same thing, right? Authorized doors, they have their own website, et cetera, et cetera. Well, a little bit of a conflict of interest when you're talking about a gray market dealer, essentially, which is WatchBox, who is associated with Govberg, associated, and in turn, Hyde Park and Radcliffe. So what do? You stop selling Rolexes on WatchBox.com and we refer all the business. If you go to WatchBox.com right now, it will redirect you to Govberg Jewelers, and that's going to show you certified pre-owned Rolex. If you look at the listings, they're very uniform. They're all shot the same way, black background, to include that little logo, certified pre-owned Rolex, and the whole to-do. Everything is very uniform, but the prices are still,
Listen, I'll be honest with you, right?
I need you to be honest. This is Watch News Weekly. This isn't CNN or Fox, right?
Exactly.
So
No. So in terms of the CPO program so far, as far as I know, it's been a pretty bad failure in the sense that they're just not competitive price-wise, right? You look at the pricing online for their CPO programs, and like we're looking at it, and for example, like there was this one specific Chronomaster, right? Like Adrian was like, dude, they had this listed for like 80 or 90,000, and I can get this for 60 today, you know? And it's just not competitive, not even in the same ballpark, right? And it's like that for a lot of the watches. Like you saw a Batman, like a 116 Batman at the start of the CPO program listed by Bucherer for like 22,000, where like a 116 Batman you could get for like 15,000 at the time.
So I had this conversation actually with Danny Govberg during the Watch Pro Awards in New York, and I asked him the same question. I said, listen, but the prices, right? And mind you, these certified pre-owned prices, they're not to be discounted. Like if you call and try to get a discount, the best you'll do is, you know, get a discount like 3% for a wire, right? They're also kind of control the pricing. So his response was, look, Roman, you'd be surprised how many people out there are going to prefer to pay $2,000 to $3,000 to $4,000 extra on an item just because it's certified by Rolex, just because it went through the certified pre-owned program by Rolex. Because mind you, they're going to have their own service center that's going to be authorized by Rolex to be able to put that pretty little green hang tag on it that says certified pre-owned Rolex. And he's not wrong in that sense, right?
Yeah.
So it's how many people out there walk into a Hublot boutique today and buy a Hublot full pop knowing that they can go online and probably get at least 20 off, 30 off. When in some cases where watches that are retailing 30, 40 grand, that's a significant amount of money, right?
Yeah.
So that crowd still exists. That crowd will always exist. That's the crowd that will not, you know, buy online per se. But now this is a little bit contradicting because this is now online. So this is
I think this is also a way for Rolex to fill that need in the market, right? Where people want to buy from the brand directly, but they can't do it new at retail, and so they have another outlet, right? So that that's really
that would be referred to the certified pre-owned outlets online, or
Correct.
obviously in store as well, because all this stuff is going to be in store. Yep. I guess the only question I have for you is, do I think it's a good move to, well, for myself actually, not for you, Do I think it's a good move for WatchBox to rebrand, to the entire company to rebrand? Yeah, because nobody is going to forget Goldberg Jewelers or Radcliffe or WatchBox for that matter, and it still says WatchBox and 1916 company.
Listen, it could be risky at times whenever you're what's it called, reimagining a company that's been around for 100 plus years. But I mean, listen,
but WatchBox hasn't.
Yeah, they have the opportunity to do it well, and I'm sure they're going to be fine.
Yeah, you go on there now, it says WatchBox and 1916 company. Yeah. Same goes for Goldberg and I would assume Radcliffe, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. Do you think other brands are going to follow suit?
In terms of a CPO type program, I don't know how many people could really implement it in a successful way, right? You go down the list like Omega, probably.
I think that would be the second one in line to do so.
I don't think Omega could possibly. The only one I could really see doing it that is already doing it. I mean, there's the likes of AP who's done it. It was
a bust.
Was never successful. Patek Philippe
Richard
could do
Mille.
It, but there are already ADs that sell pre-owned Pateks, or they can get you pre-owned Pateks, so that's not an issue. And then RM.
No, but this is a little bit different.
RM would be the one that I would.
Well, RM already rolled it out, and I haven't heard much about it. I don't know how successful it is. I can't say. Well, good luck to 1916. Good luck to WatchBox, Radcliffe, Goldberg. Let's move on to the next topic, and that is A-Aron Zenith. Do you know where I got A-Aron from?
No.
P and Keel. You ever see that skit where he goes in and he does roll call and he goes, D-Nice. The room is quiet. D-Nice. And the girl goes, Denise? Anyway, you have to see it too. It's really funny. Yeah. Key and Peele is some of my favorite. They do the best skits. In either case, Zenith and Aaron Rodgers revealed a new green Chronomaster Sport chronograph. Now, it's a little bit late because it's been in the works for like over a year, and the Rodgers made a transition to Green Bay Packers to New York Jets. So it's definitely an odd to the Green Bay time because it's got the green and a little bit of yellow. But here's what I'm going to say. The people made fun of this watch. They were like, oh my God, this is all you came up with. This is the best you can do. It doesn't really look much different. It's basically a Zaytona in green, right? Yeah. It's what it is. Just like when they came out with the Zaytona, everybody was saying the same thing. We know one thing. The machine inside there is great. The quality of the movement is unbelievable. It's a workhorse. The design aesthetics are there. Are they similar to a Daytona? Yes, but they're just the same, similar to other Chronomaster that Zenith has put out at the time.
I think it's unfair to say that it's straight up a Daytona ripoff, right? Like,
it's not.
There's so many different factors to it. The case is different. The pushers are different. The bezel, The bezel actual scale is different. The movement is different. There's a tenth of a second or 1/100th of a second chrono. So it's listen. There's enough factors
1/10.
No, it's 1/100, so it goes around every 10 seconds on the actual.
So yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so that's the idea, right? So listen, it's different enough to not call it a Daytona ripoff, and I do like the watch. I mean,
I do too. It's funny you should say that.
It sucks that obviously Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles, and he's not able to play. But is it too soon? That was too soon.
Maybe.
I don't know, but nice looking watch. I like this.
Look, I will say this, and the reason I wanted to mention this in Watch News Weekly is to sort of gateway to a topic of companies waking up and realizing that ambassadors work, specific ambassadors work, right? And they're starting to go after ambassadors that are maybe outside of the realm of, your typical stuffy, snooty watch world of the Swiss, right? Mm-hmm. Guys like LeBron James, guys like Jay-Z, and other companies are realizing when they're starting to see success, especially with sports figure from the companies like Richard Mille, from companies like Audemars Piguet, they're starting to wake up and say, hey, we should do the same.
Yeah,
the only thing I wish they would do, right? And you know who does it really well? Hublot does it really well. Like, the Pelé edition, Hublot limited edition, it came with a signed shoe. It came with a jersey, right? Maradona came with a jersey that was signed, right? So if you're going to mix in the world of sports, mix in the world of collectibles, because sometimes those two go hand in hand. There's lots of guys out there collecting sports memorabilia that are into sports, and they want to feel like, hey, I got something that screams Aaron Rodgers. This just screams a green Zenith Chronomaster.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
It doesn't scream, put a piece of cheese on there. You know what I mean? Like if this was for the Green Bay Packers. Yeah, give me something as a sports fanatic that's going to say a little bit more and actually identify this as a Aaron Rodgers watch or some type of football watch. Let's move on to the next topic. Cristiano Ronaldo. So Jacob from Jacob Co, delivered the $1.3 million timepiece to Cristiano Ronaldo. He said, I was in the neighborhood and I decided to deliver the watch myself. Let me tell you something, Jacob. If by some odd chance, Cristiano, if you're listening to this, he decides to buy a watch from us, I will walk to wherever Cristiano Ronaldo is to deliver that watch. So let's not play that part down. What are your thoughts on the watch itself?
The watch is really impressive mechanically, right? So it's a double tourbillon with a chronograph. So actually mechanically, it's super complicated. One of the most complicated watches Jacob & Co. has made. And for those who actually don't like the watch or don't like the watches of Jacob & Co. design-wise, that's fair. But the watchmaking behind it, like even the Astronomia was made by an independent watchmaker by the name of Luca Soprano. Super, super impressive, as is this.
This is a double sphere tourbillon.
Yeah.
This has a tremendous power reserve. This is also a chronograph. I actually like Jacob's design. I'm a little bit taken back by the sizes because due to a smaller wrist.
Yeah.
But his Bugatti watches, his Astronomia watches, this double sphere tourbillon. Everything about this watch is amazing horologically. Now, aesthetically, Cristiano likes shiny.
Yeah, he likes
he likes blinged out watches.
Yeah.
He's got a ton of blinged out watches, and no exception why Jacob, when delivered this to him, fully baguetted out. Jacob has stepped into the realm of real watchmaking. Jacob, I think, right now is about 5 years ahead of LVMH. Hot take for you. LVMH is putting out these Louis Vuitton watches that are complicated. They are instilling great watchmaking into them, but it takes time to be, when you're labeled as a jeweler, right? He was labeled as the most iconic hip hop jewelry maker in the world. He then created the five-time zone Jacob & Co., which is, in my mind, still one of the most iconic watches ever made, even though the watch itself was mechanically, right? It was a Hong Kong quartz movement, right? But yet, it still is going to go down in history as one of the most iconic watches. And then he changed gears and decided, you know what, I'm more serious now. You can tell by his jewelry, how he stepped up the game with his jewelry, and the same goes with watches. He's hiring guys like Soprano to create these type of movements, to create these type of shoes. He's the designer. He designs these things, right?
I mean, even in the design of the crystal, the case, like it's extremely impressive. And then obviously the jewelry side of it, right, with all the matching stones and the way that they're cut is really well done. I got to be honest though, I don't think Cristiano Ronaldo paid 1.3 million for that watch. There's no way.
I don't know if he paid for it at all.
Yeah.
He probably did.
Maybe he paid for part of it, yeah.
But certainly I don't think he paid full pop. Right? And it's...
Because it's great marketing.
And rightfully so. Like, if Cristiano Ronaldo said, give me that $1.3 million watch for $300,000, and I don't know that that's what happened, I would give him the watch for free.
Yeah. Understandable.
Because the marketing juice behind a figure like him, you know, arguably...
He's one of the most followed people in the entire world.
Isn't he like the number one?
I think Messi's
the most followers?
Messi is number one.
On Instagram?
Yeah.
Pretty sure Ronaldo.
Let's look it up.
Oh, no, let's look that up.
Messi's still the go anyways.
We're not talking soccer here. We're talking followers. Okay, so Messi has 481 million followers. Okay. Ronaldo has 611 million followers, all right?
He's still better.
In either case, great watch, great marketing stunt, not stunt, but a great marketing effort.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to call it a stunt, right? And the thing of it is, if you think about it, Jacob's gotten himself to a point where it's like you see him with Cristiano Ronaldo, and you're like, it's not like a wow, because you're used to him seeing very prominent figures. Exactly. So let's move on to the next topic, and that is a little bit of news that I read dating back a few weeks ago. So when the news came out of Rolex acquiring Bucherer, we noticed that Watches of Switzerland stock went down like 22%, right?
Yeah.
Now their shares are back up. They rose more than 13% in trade, and they were about 10% higher by 11 o'clock in the morning. And that's because of their report. They reported a tick up in revenue of 467 million from 415 million in the most recent quarter. Sales in watches rose while jewelry declined. And I think that has to do with more availability of Rolex watches. Mm-hmm. I would imagine so. Considering 51% of their sales last year were Rolex, right? Half a year growth was as strong as in the US, which makes me feel great, right? And the reason we bring this to you guys is because remember, this is the type of news that we read that also gives us an indication of the market as well, right? Again, 4% decline in the UK and Europe. You surprised?
UK and Europe, yes, because they're supposed to be very strong markets in theory. Europe specifically, I mean, the UK, I would say probably not as much surprise just because the economy in the UK is not great right now.
It is not.
Yeah.
Now, everybody reacted obviously positively, but the main topic is the 5-year business plan, which said it was confident to make more than double sales and profits and accelerate new showroom projects and M&A activity, which means they're going to be out there, building new showrooms and mergers and acquisitions. They're going to be acquiring more companies. This is what they did in the United States. And if the United States is that stronger market, look out for lots of Watches of Switzerland doors, whether they buy somebody out or they open up new doors.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people were kind of panicking. Like, a lot of the panic came from when Rolex acquired Bucherer, but Watches of Switzerland was always going to be fine. They're one of Rolex's biggest stores.
Watches of Switzerland is the biggest retailer in the world.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so
they'll be fine. They've out-survived a lot of retailers. They'll survive for a very, very long time.
Let's move on to the next topic, and that is, so Mr. Bucherer passed away, right? May he rest in peace. Amanda Gribb lived a great life, passed 135-year-old business on to Rolex. It was Carl Eduard that passed control of a then 135-year-old company to his son in the 1970s.
It's nearly a 200-year-old
in the 1970s. So now we're talking about almost a 200-year-old company. And look, the reason I wanted to mention this is to say that it always sucks to lose people. Yeah. And I don't care whether I know that person or don't know that person. It's always sad when somebody passes away. And I believe he passed away at the age of 85 or 86, right? Like that. And again, which is, by today's standards, is still somewhat young. Wanted to note the timing. Think about, look at the timing. It's like he literally he didn't have a successor, right? And this is the saddest part for me. The fact that here you are, you've built an empire. Well, you didn't build it. It was built by generations. And all of a sudden, there's nobody to pass it on to, right? Like, for example, for me, everything that I do it for my family, my children and their children, and so on and so forth. I don't want to call it building a legacy. It sounds cheesy, right?
No, but
that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what it is in reality, right? I was visiting WatchBox the other day. Danny Goldberg was there, and Brian Goldberg came in. We were sitting in a conference room talking, and Brian comes in, Danny's son, and we were just talking business and this, that, and the other. And when Brian left, everybody else, just me and Danny, I said, Danny, that is the greatest thing in the world. When I watch him conversate, take part of a business meeting, part of a deal, whatever you want to call it, I think that's got to be the most amazing feeling in the world.
Yeah, it's super rewarding, right?
It's extremely rewarding to see the next generation step into their own and so on and so forth. I do and don't have that with my son. My son is in a completely different business, but yet he's a successful businessman. So whenever me and him talk business, it's like music to my ear, and I just absolutely love it. And it's a shame that there was nobody to pass this down to, but I can't think of a better place to park one of the most iconic and oldest brands out there, or Rolex dealers, let's call them, other than to a place like Rolex. And the bottom line is, for Rolex, it wasn't about the money. For him, it was about to continue the legacy alive, the Bucherer name alive. Because if there's nobody else left to take over, the Bucherer name is going to stay. With Rolex owning it, he knew that Bucherer name was going to stay, and it's going to stay for a long, long time. There's no way in the world Rolex will ever rename Bucherer to something else, right? So he knew that. And Rolex at the same time knew, or not knew, but Rolex really did it. The number one reason was, people talk about them not wanting to have one single dealer to buy them. Let's say if like the Watches of Switzerland bought them, or Swatch Group, who's their competitor. The number one thing it came down to is it was all about the Swiss flag. They wanted the Swiss flag to stay in Switzerland, and that's why I think they did what they did first and foremost, among other reasons that I just mentioned. And I think we'll just say rest in peace, and we'll see what happens. Now, next topic is going to be the Patek, the new Patek that blew up the internet this morning.
New Patek Philippe,
Okay,
really
I'm going to tell you, you're going to tell me about the watch, and I'm going to tell you the first meme that I read today. Shout out to King Flum.
Yeah, it's a minute repeating alarm watch with an enamel dial, the enamel dial having an image of Terry Stern's father, who is now, I believe, 85 years old, and obviously is the one I would say that really brought Patek Philippe into the modern fold of watchmaking and made them, to a certain extent, the giant that they are today. So, one of the most important and historic figures in the watch industry, and this is their commemorative piece, a platinum minute repeater alarm watch. Pretty sick.
Let's talk about the dial and the fact that the picture of him is on there, and this brings me to the First thing I saw today when I don't follow many people on Instagram, and it's not an arrogance thing, pun intended, and I'll tell you why in a second, because I feel like I obviously follow all my staff that's in company, all the company accounts, and then a few F1 accounts and a few other guys, simply because that when I wake up in the morning, and let's say I want to look at my stories on Instagram, it just doesn't take a lot of time. You start following 1,000 people, you can go down a rabbit hole. King Flum was one of those guys, and he put up a picture of the watch, and it's one of those motivational posters, right? And it says, in big words, arrogance, a strange disease that makes everybody sick except for the person actually afflicted with it. He felt that this watch was arrogant. Furthermore, in his story, hold on, the caption was, I'd consider sucking myself off, but don't worry, it would be less like getting and more like it gets a little dirty. I will just put it up on a screen, right? I'm not gonna voice it out. So obviously the internet blew up, and again, haters are gonna hate. At the end of the day, first of all, the watch was supposed to be for only watch, right?
Yes, it was, but they're doing it in a limited edition of 25 pieces.
So they are gonna do it in a limited edition of 25 pieces. Do you like the watch?
Listen, I'll say this: it's not to my I would never own it personally.
Well, you don't own a Patek Philippe. You merely hold on to it for the next generation.
You're right. Very funny, good one. But I would say this: I think it's a nice commemoration piece because, minute repeaters are Terry Stern's father, Philip Stern, his favorite complication. To do it in a platinum case, it having one of the worst resonance properties, is extremely impressive. And then to do a one-off movement with an alarm function, again, is very impressive. And then the enamel dial, listen, you like it or you don't like it. Personally, I don't like it, but I like the fact that it's a really nicely done commemoration piece. And that's what it's supposed to be. It's not meant to be like a collector's, you know what I mean?
Well, it's going to be a collector's piece.
It's going to be a collector's piece.
I don't know what the sticker price on it is, but it's going to go over it.
It's not going to appeal to the mass market or even to most Patek Philippe owners. That's just the nature of the piece.
Hot take, do the same exact watch and, maybe put his name underneath with some dates or something. Or
yeah, he could have just done like a
put it in the back of the
enamel
case.
Dial, maybe like a son holding his father's hand like in the middle. You know what I mean? Like that would have been really nice.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, that I would have really liked that. I think that would have been like.
I see those ads on Instagram all the time, but on cups, but not on $500,000 Pateks.
Yeah, but I don't know.
That's probably more.
Listen, it's an interesting choice. I still don't dislike it.
Yeah, I'm going to say I don't dislike it. If given an opportunity to own one of them, I would buy it. And to resell it. For a profit. Because they will resell.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that, listen, you've seen numerous commemorative pieces to great people in the watch industry. Think about Jules Audemars, think about Eduard Piguet, and oftentimes, these anniversary pieces would come out, whether it was for their birthday or the birth of the model or whatever it might be. It's usually done, even if it's on a dial, it's usually done with some sort of a date indication, right? Or something that says anniversary, but for the most part, 9 out of 10 times, you'll find all that stuff in the back of the case, and I think that Philip Stern's picture could have been done really nicely, either in a hunter case in the back, right? With
or engraved in the...
Or, an engraving.
Yeah.
And the problem is the person is still alive, so what are you going to do? Like, you're going to put one date in the dash? You know what I mean? Yeah. It's interesting choice, and I think King Flum summed it up with one word, and that is arrogance. But at the end of the day, they're Patek Philippe.
Yeah, they can seemingly do whatever.
And if you think there's not going to be 500 people wanting to buy this watch for the 25 that were made, you're wrong, because there will be, and I don't actually blame them. Guys, I appreciate you tuning in to this episode of Watch News Weekly. As always, like, comment, share, subscribe. Follow Marco on Instagram. Marco, thank you so much for joining me, and we will see you next week.